My dear students, as you can see, today we are going to tackle the first of three videos on what is a complex sentence. We're going to take a look at the definition, the uses of them, and we're also going to take a look at some examples. So, first things first, what is a complex sentence? There. Here are some key takeaways. A complex sentence contains one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. We'll take a look at that a little bit later on. Complex sentences help provide more information on the main point when it comes to writing and all. A complex sentence shows the relationship connection between two or more ideas more effectively than a simple sentence. A complex sentence provides more information on your main point by joining one dependent clause with at least one dependent clause. Complex sentences allow writers to provide more detail and background, like setting information in speech or writing. Here's an example of it. For example, the complex sentence, because the rain was heavy, the game was canceled, showcases the relationship between the independent clause that stands on its own, the game was canceled, and the dependent clause that cannot stand alone because the rain was heavy. It is key, which means it's important or essential, for speakers or writers to understand this concept in order to use different sentence types efficient efficiently for clear and thorough speech and writing. Complex sentences add sophistication to your speech and writing and allow you to convey nuanced related ideas. They can also help you connect ideas logically and create a smoother flow compared with only using short, simple sentences. In this video here, we're gonna take a look at how to create, use, and identify complex sentences for engaging speeches and writings. Here's our table of contents, as you can see right there, my dear students. We're gonna start off with complex sentence structures for this video. Complex sentence structures and the difference between complex and simple sentences. That's for today's video. Here we go. Complex sentence structure. The structure of a complex sentence involves the connection of at least one dependent clause, as the example was given to you previously, to an independent clause. An independent clause stands alone as a complete thought and is considered a simple sentence. Dependent clauses can't stand alone and depend on independent clauses to provide meaning. Here's the example that's given. An, in, an independent clause. She ran on the beach. The dependent clause. Although she's tired. When we take these two and we put them together, we combine them, we have what is known as a complex sentence. Although she's tired, fatigue and all, she ran on the beach. She made her best effort to run, to do physical exercise and all. See? Dependent clauses are crucial to the formula of a complex sentence. Although dependent clauses cannot stand alone, they enrich complex sentences by adding layers of information, context, and detail. That's super, super important, my dear students, for us to know. That's one of the importance that complex sentences have at a B2 C1 level. Complex sentence punctuation. Placing, which is another way for saying putting, a dependent clause also influences punctuation, specifically when using commas in complex sentences. Generally, if the dependent clause comes before the independent clause, a comma separates the two clauses. However, however, a comma is typically unnecessary if the dependent clause comes after the independent one. Still, there are some exceptions or stylistic choices where a comma should be used, especially with a short dependent clause at the end of a sentence. Using subordinating conjunctions in complex sentences. Dependent clauses in complex sentences are usually introduced by using subordinating conjunctions, in other words, connectors, linkers, to provide context for how the dependent and independent clauses relate to one another. Common uses and examples of subordinating conjunctions include, here we go. So we have time, cause effect, contrast, and opposition. Condition. Here are some examples you've probably seen before and you probably used. Here are how they are used. So we have when, while, before, until, once, because, so that, as long as, in such matter, although, though, whereas, if, unless, even if, in case of, provided that. Reasons we have because, since, whereas, wherever, and so and so. This brings us to the last part of today's video. What is the difference between complex and simple sentences? Deciding whether to use complex or simple sentences depends on the desired. As as a speaker or as a writer, what am I expecting? What do I want? Or what am I hoping to convey in my speech or in my writing? Complex sentences allow you to express more details about the relationship between ideas and add depth and nuance to your speech or writing. Simple sentences, my dear students, provide clarity and conciseness to writing, making them perfect to help emphasize key points. There's a little chart here. Look at that right there. So, because it's raining, my independent clause, we're staying inside. Dependent clause. Putting these together, we have what is known as a complex sentence. The simple sentence makes a statement. We're staying inside. That's the statement. While the complex sentence provides additional context. So, what's the reason behind us staying inside? Well, because it's raining. So the weather is not very it's not very fun outside. It's terrible to be more precise. So, this is the reason the motive why we've decided to stay inside or we're staying inside. Understanding the difference between complex and simple sentences give you the fundamental building blocks of speech and writing, clear and engaging sentences. Thank you very much, my dear students, and I'll see you all in our next video.